All right, everyone. So here I am with the amazing Jennifer Rowe. We have convened today to talk together about spirituality and our lifestyle vlogs and just kind of everything within the realm of manifestation and so much more. So I'm so grateful to be here with you today, Jennifer Rowe. How's it going?
It's going good. Thank you so much for getting us together and being open to doing a collaboration. I'm really excited. Like I said, I looked at your channel and we have so many things in common, from sobriety to being sex workers and being into like personal development and like spirituality and things like that. So I think that this is going to be an awesome video, to be honest with you.
Yes, definitely. Super excited. So do you have like an actual video? I didn't see one on your channel where like you kind of go into a story about your background in spirituality or how you got into dancing or anything like that?
No, I don't have any background stories on any of that. I'm not sure when like that part of it I'm gonna like bring up, because it's like I'm at a place right now where I'm like comfortable enough to like film my life and put it online. But to be honest, like it was a fucking mess for a long time. So like I'm gonna have to like talk about all that messy stuff to like get to where I'm at now. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I think a lot of our struggles and our hardest, deepest, darkest moments shape who we are today and, create our successes for sure. And so you have been dancing for 13 years, right?
Yeah. I started when I was 18. When did you start?
Nice. Yeah, I started when I was 25 and I'm 29 now, so about 4 years.
Yeah. What were you doing before you were dancing?
Before that, I was a server at a restaurant for like 8 years or something. And yeah, I had like been in and out of school, but I never completely finished. I still have like 5 classes left, so maybe at some point. But what about you? Did you do any type of work before dancing at 18?
So I was a hostess at a Mexican restaurant, and I was like a secretary for a little bit, and it was just not for me. Um,
Okay.
yeah, I finally got my foot in a strip club. Like I knew I wanted to dance at a really young age, as awful as that sounds. Like I was like 12 and I was like, I want to be a stripper, because like back in the 90s, I feel like, I mean, even today, like sex workers are really glamorized, like people think that dancers like have like this super glamorous lifestyle, that they're pretty, they make like all this money. So I used to look at like Pamela Anderson, like Jenna Jameson, like the girls next door, like Playboy, and I was like, that was like as shallow as it sounds. Like I needed better role models, but I was like, that's what I want to be. Like I want to be like this like sexy like woman that's like has like all this like power just because she's like attractive.
Nice. Yeah, that's definitely a viable archetype in our world, right? In our culture. And
And I was also like a really ugly kid. I had like really big frizzy hair. I was overweight and like nasty teeth. So for me, that was like, I put like that type of like person like on a pedestal. So that was like
mm.
fun.
Definitely. No, I can actually relate to that a lot. Like when I was in school, I had a really hard time. I was homeschooled for 3 years from third grade, and then I went back to school in seventh grade. And I had basically been like sheltered during that time. So going back to school, being around all these kids was like a big culture shock. I was really nerdy. People made fun of me. Like I was not the popular, good looking kid by any means. So I can relate to aspiring to want to have that sexiness and that allure about it.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that attracted me to the strip club as well. Like I had always been intrigued by it. But like we were talking about earlier, like it's not all glamorous and
No.
it's not such a walk in the park as people might make it out to be, like some of the more popular stripper vlogs and stripper culture doesn't always talk about the dark side of it, which is at
Mhm.
least 50% of it, which I mean has been for me in my journey. Like just experiencing pre-work anxiety or depression or just like not feeling good about myself sometimes and not even wanting to go to work. Can you talk about your experience with that?
I seriously have a meltdown almost every single time before I go to work. Like but I have a love-hate relationship with the job because, and I tell my boyfriend it's like going to the gym, which is, you know, like, I'm like, I don't want to go. Like, I don't want to go. But then when I'm finally there, it's not so bad. But yeah, before I go, like you said, the pre-anxiety before going to work, like 13 years, and I'm still like, sometimes I'm just like, I just don't want to work. And it's not that I don't want to work, because that sounds lazy. It's draining to me, like mentally, like all of it, like the hours. I think the girls you work with sometimes, like we talked about earlier, a lot of the girls like in our industry, like they're not happy girls. Like they're not happy girls. Like they're not. I don't care if they have Louis bags or if their sugar daddy bought them a car or co-signed for this or co-signed for that. Like those girls are just not happy. Like the majority of them literally are just not happy. So they're typically nasty to each other. They're very competitive when it comes to money. They're depressed because they're downing all this alcohol. It's a fucking depressant. And then if you're doing drugs, that messes with your serotonin levels as well. So you got unstable coworkers, you got unstable customers. And then if you have a good head on your shoulders, you find that you have to really fucking dumb yourself down to like make money, because you're not here to show people who you are. You're an actress and you're there to stroke their ego and make them feel good about themselves. So yeah, like
yes,
there's a lot.
definitely. I've had all of those experiences as well. I can definitely relate. However, as I move into this new stage of my existence, I've really been playing a lot with bending and shaping my reality. And this is where the manifestation comes into play. And so I'm starting to think like, well, yes, I walked into this industry and all this negativity is what I experienced. If I can actually change my experience by first reorganizing my inner world and dispelling any repeat limiting beliefs that I may hold each and every time I go into work. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and it's been a challenge, you know, because I think like, okay, so in your video recently, you talked about the concept of everyone is you pushed out. And this is something that, of course, was put forth by the legendary Neville Goddard. And it's the idea that everyone in your 3D reality is going to show up and behave in ways that you are assuming and imagining that they will. And
Yes.
so basically everything outside of you is a projection of your internal world.
Fine. No, like what you said is completely true. I just went on this rant about how like the girls are depressed, you know, they're competitive, the customers are unstable, and like those are like my core, you know, like that those are my experiences. And so obviously like I said that with like so much passion, and that's how I feel. So that shit's gonna project back at me. Do you know what I'm saying? So like sometimes like before I go to work, I'm like, no, like every customer I meet is generous and respectful, and the girls mind their business. They don't mess with me. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and I know that you told me the other day that you went to work and like you were able to manifest, you know, the exact day that you like how you wanted your day to go out, and you brought a bag home, and it was not like degrading or anything like that. It was easy and enjoyable. So
yeah, exactly. So it's totally possible, you know, it takes a lot of like inner reorganization. And so I went to work that day, and it was right after watching your video, which was super inspirational because you talk about how like your subconscious mind is all around you. Everything that you experience is your own subconscious being reflected back to you. And so I don't know what happened, but it was like overnight, I had such an immense shift in my thinking and my understanding of the universe and consciousness that I literally became the god of my own reality. And so I was, but at the same time, I was very laid back and very curious to play with reality and see where it would take me. So I didn't have any attachment to the outcome or anything like that. And I ended up manifesting at work $1,000 on a Monday during the day shift, which is historically very slow, right? And so and it was all perfect, like very euphoric the way everything happened. And so I tried to hold on to that and do it again. But I think the next time I just had a lot of attachment around the outcome, and so it didn't quite happen. It's a very delicate space to be in and to play with.
It's weird. Yeah, it's weird. Do you know anything about lucid dreaming?
Yeah, I do.
Do you lucid dream?
I have before, but I'm feeling inspired to get better at it.
You know, when you're in that, manifesting is a lot like a lucid dream. When you're in a lucid dream, you know how you can't get too excited about it because you'll wake up or anything like that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like you kind of have to be in this weird like haze where like you're letting things flow and you can be like and aware what's going on, but you can't fuck with it too much because you'll mess up your manifestation. Like
That's perfect. That's a perfect analogy, right? And that's why a lot of people say when you have a spiritual awakening, you become lucid in this dream of life.
Oh my goodness, yes. And for me, I don't know about you, but for me, like it can be frustrating sometimes because you need to take accountability for like everything that's going on in your life because that's the only way that you can hold the power. So
yeah,
if you start, you know, but this, but that, you know, like it wasn't my fault and you know, it's because of this circumstance and you put all these, you know, buts, then you start losing your power. But when you take accountability for your own shit, and then you start noticing your internal dialogue is all messed up and it's just does not make sense. Where I'm like, okay, I want this to happen, I want this to happen. And then I'll like let my brain go on like autopilot and it'll just like steer out of the direction that I want it to go on. And then I get upset with myself because I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you know, like get back on track. Like
yeah, definitely. And that's like taking accountability for everything in your life is so important because the space that I'm in right now is like going to work. A lot of times it can be very difficult, right? Because I view the environment there as very hostile, right? Like just like you were explaining before, it can be from the customers, can be from the other girls I work with, from both. But if what I'm seeing is a reflection of what's in me, then the work that I have to do is look inwardly and say, okay, what is the part of my subconscious that is being judgmental to myself or degrading to myself or critical, the inner critic, right? And so it just shows that you have some healing to do. And
yeah,
that can be a good thing, you know?
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I saw in your videos that you titled some of them Sober Stripper, you know, and were you ever not sober? Or
I was.
yeah, I want to hear.
Yeah. So when I first started dancing, I was 25 and I had just gotten out of a really toxic, abusive, controlling relationship with this guy who I was with for 5 years. And so I was like, freedom. I was able to like do whatever I wanted. And I ran straight to the strip club basically because I always wanted to be there, but he wouldn't let me. And so he was definitely like a heavy drinker and an alcoholic. And so whenever I compared my alcohol and drug use to him, like it didn't really match up. And I never thought that I had an issue with it. But then when I started working at the club, it was like, you know, someone who was very introverted and had a history of social anxiety, just like what you were talking about earlier, I needed to have a drink in order to do my job because everything that I was doing there was way outside of my comfort zone, dancing almost naked on stage, finessing customers, trying to get them to like me, you know, to pay me, and all these other things, the intimacy of a lap dance. And so my already present drinking problem escalated very quickly. And it was like I could control when I started drinking, like when I took that first drink. But after that, like I just wanted more and more and more all night. I'd be going to the after hours after work. I'd be hungover the next day, every day. And it just got to the point where I felt really tired and I wanted to make a change. Like my outer world was all lined up. I was paying my bills, I was in school, this and that, but my internal world was in turmoil. I was like super depressed and sad. And so I ended up going to Alcoholics Anonymous and getting sober and then going back into dancing. And it's been a way better experience in sobriety.
Yeah, I haven't done AA yet.
That's okay.
I did two two 12-week programs in a span of 1 year.
Okay.
And I was drinking really heavily, and I was doing a lot of drugs. Like I was doing like Adderall and a lot of cocaine, and I needed to stop. But yeah, we use that excuse of, you start telling yourself you need this to loosen up or to have a conversation and do that. And then there's like a shift change in your mind that you have to do when you decide that you want to be sober, and you don't really need any of that crap. You can have a conversation with, and it's actually easier. You get to focus on what you're doing. Like, I don't know about you, but I wasn't focused on money. I was focused on my customer buying me my next drink.
Yeah.
Like waiting for them to offer me a drink. Like, that's how I would gauge if I want to sit with a customer. Like, if he was offering me a drink within the first like 10 minutes.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, definitely. So what was that shift like for you?
Oh, it was really messed up. So when I gave birth to my daughter, I was still in the hospital, and I came down with like the worst case of postpartum depression. Like, postpartum depression is like, I feel like there's like a spectrum, to be honest. Like, some people are like, yeah, I think I had postpartum depression. Like, worst case scenario, I was at the worst case scenario, to the point where like I had my daughter and I was in the hospital, and they took her from me at the hospital, and I didn't even get to go home. They sent me straight to a mental institution.
Oh, damn.
And when I was, it got weird. It got crazy. So in the mental institution, while I was having my meltdown, they asked me all these questions, like, prior to like you being pregnant, like what was your lifestyle like? And I was just like diarrhea of the mouth, because I needed help at that point. I was like, I was like at a confessional, just telling them like all my shit. They wrote everything down, and the hospital had called DCF on me because I was vocal about having, intrusive thoughts about wanting to hurt my newborn baby. So they have to call DCF on me. And so DCF went to the mental institution, and they wanted my medical information. And when they saw that I basically confessed to having this history on like drugs and alcohol and all these things, I was forced to go to rehab. So I went to rehab because of that. And the first time I went to rehab, I thought, you know what? I don't have a problem. This was just a bad circumstance. Like, this was just kind of like bad luck. And then fast forward a couple months later, I'm driving home from work, and I get pulled over, and I got arrested for a DUI. And so when I find myself having to be forced to go to rehab the second time within a 1 year period span, that's when I had that light bulb moment, and I was like, you might have an issue.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so it's like I'm being forced to go to rehab by the court, and by like, so this is a problem. So that's when I was like, something's got to change. And it was bad because like I was getting in like fights like at the club. Like, I'm a grown woman, and I'm like a mother. Like, I don't need to be doing these things. And it was because when I drank, the filter between my brain and my mouth or my actions is just gone. So
same. Yeah. I had a few altercations myself. I had gotten fired before.
Fights are like very common. Like, strippers, that's another thing. Like, if anybody's watching this and you're not a stripper, like, we throw down. Like,
yeah. Not my proudest moment.
Yeah, me neither. It doesn't get more ratchet than that.
Yeah. But yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. Like, that takes a lot of vulnerability for sure. And my moment of clarity, or my shift, came when I was actually on a trip with one of my clients from the club. He took me to Las Vegas, and I had never done anything like that before, but we had kind of like a good rapport between us. We had been friends. He had been a consistent client. And so I went with him, and at this time I was also doing sex work, which once I got sober, I had stopped doing because it's just not for me.
Were you like full service?
Yeah, full service. And so he was my client in that respect as well. And so when I was in Vegas, we were there for a weekend. And, if I had been fulfilling that role here in town, then it would be something that I could do for an hour and then escape from. But there we were literally sharing a hotel room. So it was a full-time deal. And I got really tired of it, like after day one. And so I had like this whole emotional breakdown in one of the casino bathrooms. I was just crying and I was like, what am I doing? Like, I don't need to be here. And who am I, And so after that, like it was a big dramatic thing. I ended up taking a red-eye flight back to Houston where I live. And I went to AA the very next day. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was pretty powerful because I had already known about AA before. So
yeah.
So
I saw in your videos, is that your partner? Is that your roommate?
My partner, my romantic partner.
Okay.
Ava.
People ask me this all the time and I get kind of annoyed. So I'm going to ask you anyways, but it's for the purpose of the video. Yeah. How is it for you and your relationship and being in the industry that we're in?
Yes, I actually love this question because I know that it can be really difficult for a lot of women to have a healthy and happy monogamous relationship at being a stripper. I know that it was difficult for me for a long time before being with my partner. But with her, so she and I were really good friends before we ever started dating. We used to party a lot together, but then I got sober and she ended up getting sober. And in sobriety, our feelings for each other changed and became something more. And so she knew me when I was doing sex work, and she already knew that I was a stripper when we got together. And so like there were no secrets or anything there. And to be honest, she does get jealous sometimes. And I know that the day I hang those heels up will be a good day for her. But it's also like she doesn't try to stop me from what I'm doing. She just is committed to talking to me about how she feels, and I'm committed to holding space for her. And we get through it together. But most of the time, she just would prefer not to hear about what happens at work, and I respect that.
Yeah.
What about you?
For us, I don't know. I want to say we're kind of like, honestly, I haven't really sat him down and like had this conversation, but we've known each other since high school. So we've known each other. Yeah, we've known each other for a really long time, and we have a full family now. Like I have 2 kids. Like we have like a family. And once upon a time, we both used to like party together, and we've done lots of things. And I guess we're kind of more of like an open couple. We're not like in an open relationship. We are monogamous, but I've been doing what I've been doing for so long that I feel like he understands that I'm really there for one reason and one reason only, and it's to make money.
Yeah.
And like I told you earlier when I was talking to you before we were recording, I am intentionally making these stripper videos to catch people's attention and then guide them in a different way. Like to me, like the strip club world to me is so boring. Like it is a different world. It's a different world. It's a different lifestyle, and it's a different world that unless you're in it, you're not going to understand it. But to me, I'm just so over it that I don't care. So I'm just like, and I think he knows that. So I'm in the transition right now where I'm like 1 foot in the club and like 1 foot out. And I don't want to ever tell him like, because I've done this before where I'm like, I'm putting the heels up. And then I'm like, a couple months later, I'm like,
yeah, me too.
So, I mean, but he's like, for my birthday, like he's come in the club and like, he'll throw money and like, we'll have fun. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, did you ever come in?
She's come in before. Yeah, it was fun.
And it can be fun, but it's not like he's, planted. Some people's boyfriends or girlfriends will be like every shift. Do you know what I'm talking about?
That's not good. Yeah.
Like every shift, like sitting in a corner, like waiting for their girl to like, no, like it's not one of those like situations, but yeah. I don't press him too much about like how he feels about it, just because like I am still doing it, but I feel like he's kind of the same way. If he doesn't like it, he's not gonna tell me. And this is something that people can't wrap their minds around. I get customers at work all the time. They're like, oh, and he lets you do this. And I'm like, what is this letting Like,
Yeah.
you don't get a partner and then like dictate what they do. If you don't like what they're doing, you always have the choice to leave.
Yeah.
What do you mean let me do? Like, what do I like? They're not owners. Like,
Right. Definitely. That's when it gets into toxicity, when you
yeah,
think yeah, like you said, be able to dictate what your partner does and doesn't do.
yeah, like they're always open and welcome to like voice how they feel,
Mm-hmm.
but that's on them to do. And if they don't like, what's going on, nobody's putting a gun to their head to stay either. So that's why I always get kind of like, for me, it's kind of annoying when people are like, well, how does your partner feel about this? And I'm like, what does your wife think about you being here, or your daughter?
Well, they don't know, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, I can understand that. Yeah, it's definitely a misunderstood, job that we have in a lot of ways. There's a lot of stereotypes types, and there's a lot of stigma around it. And so I think that both you and I are kind of like people who are breaking through those barriers, and that stigma by the work that we do and just by who we are and just moving through the world in the way that we do.
I'd really like to see more girls be in this place that are in the industry.
Yeah.
I would really like to see more girls get sober and, like just raise the bar for themselves, because I think it's depressing. And I've been in that space before where like, you just don't know how to get out. You just go to work, to drink and make, ends meet basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And so I feel like messages like this can be very inspiring. Seeing other people getting out of it kind of shows you what's possible for yourself and expands your mind and inspires you. And so I asked you earlier, but I don't think you got a chance to answer before we started recording. Like, what are your goals for your YouTube channel and the work that you're doing?
To be honest, like I said, I don't care about the stripper stuff. For me, it's boring. I am just trying to catch people's attention so that I can guide them in a different direction. And it is to teach them about what it is that I know, because I've had some really crazy experiences. After I said that I was put in a loony bin. So I don't know who wants to take my advice, but for me, I feel like I know what I'm talking about, like the law of attraction is something that I got into like years and years ago, and it has completely changed my mind. I mean, my life. It's completely changed my life. And I think that some people just need to hear more about it. I know that a lot of people have seen The Secret. And have you seen The Secret?
Of course.
And when you first watch it, it is like the Disneyland, version of what really metaphysical stuff is. It just skims like the top. It just gets so much deeper. And I've been obsessed with this topic. Like when I'm telling you I am obsessed, like I got journals right here. Like every day I wake up and I do all my stuff and all my history. Novell, Bob Proctor, Esther Hicks, all those people. Like I feel like I know my shit and I want to share it with people. But overall, to be honest, like my channel is my manifestation is a way. I'm not going to lie and say that I'm just doing this for fun and just to help people. Like I 110% intend on making money off of it. Yeah. And for it to be a creative and fun way for me to make money, but also help people. So
yeah,
that's kind of like my goal. Right now, you and I are in the beginning stages, and it seems like we're kind of like on the same like topic. What's your goal?
Yeah, so my YouTube channel started because basically I told you I started going to AA, and in AA we have these meetings, right, where you start sharing and talking about things, and I started getting feedback from people that they really like the way that I speak, that I'm a good storyteller, and that I should pursue it in some way. And so I was thinking like I want to start a podcast or a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel came first. And so like looking ahead, I also definitely want to monetize my channel. I think it can be a great way to diversify my income. And if COVID has taught us all anything, it's that we need multiple streams of income. And so that's a big thing. But also, I have considered like getting into the realm of coaching and becoming a healer. I'm currently working with a shamanic healer, and we're going in and doing like inner child work and all types of subconscious reprogramming, because ultimately how the law of attraction is going to work is you're not going to get the thing that you want unless you believe on a subconscious level that you're capable of getting it. And so that's why a lot of techniques for me personally haven't worked, like doing the visualizations, doing the scribing, the affirmations. Like those are all great modalities. All modalities are, but for me, they didn't work because on a subconscious level, I didn't really believe that I was going to get the thing that I wanted. And so what we do is we go back in childhood and find these traumas that have like encoded within me some type of unworthiness around something that I'm trying to have in my life, whether it's, having a really positive experience in my relationship, which I didn't have for a while in this relationship or any other relationship because of my own negative emotional mental patterns. I've also been institutionalized for mental instability, right? And so now I have a lot more inner peace because of this inner child work that I've done. And so I see myself stepping into those realms in some capacity. And I think that my YouTube channel and the followers that I will accrue are all going to play into that. But it's also a part of allowing it to unravel in divine timing and making sure, like you said, to have a ton of fun with it, right? Because when my projects just become a means to an end, it loses all of its fun and all of its magic.
Yeah. So, do you mind telling us what the process is like when you go back to healing trauma from childhood? Like, what is that? What does that look like? Like, what is that like?
Absolutely.
I'm
So
not sure. What is it? You called it a shaham healer?
shaman, like
A
shamanism.
shaman?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure what a shaman is.
Okay, yeah. So a shaman is like, shamanism has its roots in ancient civilizations all over the globe, really. And it goes back to tribal communities where the shaman's role in the tribe was to be the go-between between the physical and the non-physical or spiritual realm, right? And so they played a very important part. And so today we have modern day shamans. Some still exist in tribes, but others exist, in cities and towns and wherever else. And they basically are fulfilling that role, and they have access to that ancient wisdom and techniques that have really been lost and covered over by the modernization and westernization of our culture. And so, yeah, the inner child work that we do, it can be different every single time because it also includes energy work and akashic readings and whatever she feels the situation calls for during our sessions. But the inner child work, which is something I have a video planned all about, is basically when you feel triggered by something in life that evokes a very strong emotion from you, whether it's feeling really jealous of somebody, really angry at something, anything that evokes an emotional response that is a lot larger than what the circumstance actually warrant, you know what I mean, is an indicator that there's some unhealed trauma that you can go back to. And so it's a matter of sitting down and getting in a meditative state and asking your subconscious to bring to you the memory where you first felt that emotion that's being triggered right now. And so I can give a personal example. One time I came home from work or somewhere, and my partner had a friend over, and I didn't know that there was going to be someone else at my house, and I wouldn't have cared, but we have like an agreement where we're going to tell each other if we invite someone over. And so I wasn't expecting it, and I came home and I felt really triggered by it, and I was just like, hey, what's up? And I went into my room and had a little pity party. And then later I was able to talk to the healer about it and be like, hey, this happened. And she was like, okay, it looks like what's going on a deeper level here is you feel like a boundary was crossed because y'all had this agreement. So let's ask to be taken to the time when a boundary was first crossed. And so we got into the meditative state, and I went back to a memory that I didn't even consciously remember, but I was on a beach with my family. And honestly, I don't even remember what was going on in the memory, but basically the main purpose of inner child work is you go back and you meet whatever need wasn't being met for your child, like for you at that time, by one of your caretakers. And so usually what that means is like giving them a hug, telling them they're loved. And, it's a totally imaginative state. So you can create for them whatever type of experience was lacking during that time. And then it could also from there involve taking them back to my own personal sanctuary, which is a space I've also created, and on and on. It gets pretty detailed, but that's the gist of it. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So it's kind of like revision.
Yeah.
It's like a meditative, yeah, that makes sense. Cool. So is this considered a religion or what is it?
No, it's not considered religion. So you mean like shamanism?
Mm-hmm.
Shamanism, no, it's something that is like, it's very inclusive and all encompassing. It's kind of like the difference between rigid religion and spirituality, right?
Okay.
It's like, religion is very rigid and has a set tradition, but spirituality can be for anybody. And there are a lot of traditions, but they don't all have to be followed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting. How'd you get into that?
So basically desperation.
I love the honesty.
Pretty much just like feeling and repeating the same cyclical issues, having the same things come up over and over again in my life, never feeling satisfied or happy or having inner peace, right? Always feeling like I want to be somewhere that I'm not, never feeling content in the present moment. And so I tried to go through life coaches and different things like that, but it always got me to the same spot. And so I happened to meet the shaman at an event, and I had considered working with her for a while, but after I got super desperate, I made an appointment, and I've been consistently having appointments ever since. It's been life-changing. So basically with all the stuff I'm doing with the shamanic healer, and it doesn't even matter that it's a shamanic healer, it can be done really with anybody who facilitates a reprogramming of your subconscious. Because like I said, at the subconscious level, you have to really believe that you're capable of achieving whatever it is you want in your outer realm, because our internal worlds create our external worlds. And I think that you have something to say about that, or you have some experience with that.
Oh, I have a lot of experience with that, but what I want to do is get the message out, like I said, to basically sex workers. I feel like we are kind of like the underdogs. And a lot of the girls have been handed, a bad deck of cards, and just to give them hope so that like they know that they can change, like they can change things. And at least, I don't know about you, but I feel like a lot of people like don't respect the industry. Yeah. Like, and we can change that. You know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to stay like as a whole, like the sex, like the dancer community, the porn star community, like prostitutes and stuff like that. Like, we don't have to be like in this box that like society is putting us in. We don't have to keep playing that role of, people that are not good with their money, or like that are in bad relationships, or that are unstable, and that have like, substance abuse issues. Like, this can change. Like, we can as a whole be good, mothers and girlfriends and bosses, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. So that was really like where like I'm like going with this, but other than that, I'm having a really hard time like articulating it.
No, so that's beautiful. And like I felt that for sure. Like, that's so inspiring, it's like we really can have anything that we want in this world. We just have to believe that it's possible. And I think that projects like this, messages that you and I are putting out right now are examples of what's possible. And that right there is shifting anybody's subconscious mind to begin to believe that they can have what they want. So this was super awesome. I had a lot of fun doing it. And yeah, we need to keep doing collaborations, keep to create more content. So thank you so much for reaching out.
Yeah, same. Thank you for agreeing to do it. We need to do it more.
Thank you all so much for watching and tuning in. If you all like this video, please hit the like button, the bell to receive notifications anytime either of us create new content. And also comment in the section below what your thoughts are. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, Chelz Cora, and also
Daya Falon. And even if you don't agree with what we're saying and you hate everything about us, let us know that too. just comment, just whatever, just however you feel about it, just comment. And yeah, I'm excited.
Absolutely. Me too. All right, everyone. Have a blessed day.
Bye.